She said, "Let's take a break," like it was no big deal. I packed my bag without a fight, thinking she needed space to miss me. What I didn't know was that another man's shirt was already hanging in our closet. By the time I discovered the truth, I was living in a motel room while she posted Instagram photos with her perfect evening. But here's the thing about breaks. Sometimes they become permanent, and the person who asked for space ends up begging for it back. My name is Jerome Blackwood. I'm 41 years old, and I run a food truck business in Portland, Oregon. Started with one beat-up truck 8 years ago. Now I've got 5 trucks rolling across the city. I thought I had it all figured out. Successful business, beautiful wife, nice house in the suburbs. Boy, was I wrong. Tuesday started normal enough. I was prepping ingredients in my main truck, getting ready for the lunch rush downtown. The smell of barbecue sauce filled the small space as I chopped vegetables. My phone buzzed with texts from my drivers. Marcus checking supplies, Tommy asking about permits. That's when Nadine called. My wife never called during work hours unless something was wrong. "Jerome, we need to talk when you get home tonight," she said, her voice flat and distant. I wiped my hands on my apron. "Everything all right, babe? You sound weird." There was a long pause. Then she spoke again. "Just come home after you close up. We'll talk then." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, trying to figure out what that was about. Nadine wasn't dramatic by nature. She was practical, straightforward. But something in her tone made my stomach twist. I spent the rest of the day distracted, burning onions and forgetting orders. Marcus noticed when he stopped by. "Boss, you good?" he asked. "You seem off today." I forced a smile. "Just tired, man. Long week." But it wasn't tiredness. It was that feeling when you sense someone watching you in the dark. That prickle on your neck that says something's not right. By 6 p.m., I cleaned my truck and headed home to our colonial in Beaverton. The house looked normal. Manicured lawn, flower beds Nadine obsessed over, my old Chevy next to her Honda. Perfect, just like it had been for 6 years of marriage. I found her in the living room, sitting on the edge of our beige couch with her hands folded. She'd changed into jeans and a sweater, but her posture screamed tension. "Hey," I said, dropping my keys on the coffee table. "So what's this about?" She looked up with eyes I barely recognized. Cold, distant, like she was looking at a stranger instead of her husband. "Jerome, I think we need to take a break." Just like that. No build-up, no explanation. 5 words that turned my world upside down. I stood there like a statue, waiting for the punchline that never came. Nadine just stared at me with those cold eyes, like she was discussing the weather instead of blowing up our marriage. A break. I finally managed. "What does that mean exactly?" She shifted on the couch, avoiding my gaze. "I need some space to figure things out. We've been growing apart, Jerome. You must have felt it too." Growing apart? News to me. Sure, we'd fallen into a routine, work, dinner, TV, bed, but I thought that was normal after 6 years. I thought we were solid. "How long are we talking here?" I asked, my voice surprisingly calm. "I don't know. A few weeks, maybe a month. I've already talked to my sister. I can stay with her." Already talked to her sister. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. She'd been planning this conversation, maybe for weeks. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Is there someone else? The question slipped out before I could stop it. "Jerome, please don't make this harder than it has to be." That wasn't a no. That was lawyer talk, the kind of non-answer that said everything while saying nothing. I felt something cold settle in my chest, like ice forming on a windshield. "I'll pack a bag," I said, standing up. "You don't have to leave tonight." "Yeah, I do." I walked upstairs to our bedroom, pulled out the old duffel bag from the closet, and started throwing clothes into it. T-shirts, jeans, work uniforms, underwear. The basics. Nadine appeared in the doorway, watching me pack like she was observing a stranger. "Where will you go?" she asked. "Motel 6 downtown, near the trucks." I grabbed my toothbrush from the bathroom. That's when I saw it. A men's dress shirt hanging in our walk-in closet. Navy blue, expensive looking. Not mine. I stared at that shirt for a long moment, my hand frozen on the bathroom door frame. It was right there, hanging next to Nadine's work clothes like it belonged. Like someone else had made himself comfortable in my house, in my closet, in my life. "Jerome." Nadine's voice seemed to come from far away. I didn't say anything about the shirt. What was the point? She'd just lie again, tell me it was her brothers or some friends. Instead, I grabbed my razor and threw it in the bag. 10 minutes later, I was walking down our front steps with everything I needed in one duffel bag. Nadine stood in the doorway, arms crossed, looking relieved rather than sad. That told me everything I needed to know. "I'll call you in a few days," she said. I stopped at my truck and looked back at her. "Don't bother. You want space? You got it." I drove to the Motel 6 on Sandy Boulevard, checked into a room that smelled like disinfectant and broken dreams, and sat on the edge of the bed staring at my phone. Part of me expected her to call, to say she'd made a mistake. But the phone stayed silent, and so did I. That night, lying on scratchy sheets under fluorescent lights, I realized something important. I wasn't angry yet. I was just empty, like someone had reached inside my chest and scooped out everything that mattered. The real anger would come later. Right now, I was just a man in a cheap motel room, wondering how 6 years of marriage had ended with 5 words and a stranger's shirt in my closet. The motel room became my world for 2 weeks. Thin walls, a TV that only picked up 3 channels clearly, and a bed that felt like sleeping on concrete. But it was mine, and nobody was lying to me there. I kept my routine. Up at 5, shower, drive to the commissary kitchen. I rented to prep ingredients for all 5 trucks. Work kept me sane. The smell of hickory smoke and the sizzle of meat on the grill were constants I could rely on when everything else felt like quicksand. Marcus noticed the change immediately on day 3, watching me slice brisket with more aggression than necessary. "Boss, you look like hell," he said, genuine concern in his weathered face. "Thanks for the pep talk," I muttered, not looking up from my cutting board. "Where you staying?" "Your house." I shook my head. "Motel 6 on Sandy." His eyebrows shot up. "That's rough, man. What happened?" "Nadine wanted space. I gave her space." Marcus had been married for 15 years. He knew when not to push. "You need anything, you call me. Day or night." That meant more than he knew. When your marriage explodes, you realize how few people you can actually count on. I waited for Nadine to call. Day 4, day 7, day 10. My phone stayed silent, except for business calls and texts from my drivers. No messages asking how I was doing. No calls wondering if we could work things out. Nothing. Part of me wanted to drive by the house, see if that navy shirt was still hanging in my closet. But pride kept me away. She wanted me gone, so I stayed gone. Maybe that was my mistake, but at least it was mine to make. On day 12, I broke down and checked her social media. Big mistake. There she was, laughing at some upscale restaurant I didn't recognize, sitting across from a guy I'd never seen before. Tall, dark hair, wearing what looked like the same navy shirt from my closet. The timestamp showed it was posted just 2 hours ago. Xander Hayes. That was his name according to the tag. Not hiding it. Not ashamed. Just living his life with my wife like I'd never existed. I stared at that photo for 20 minutes. They look happy. Comfortable. Like they'd been together for years instead of whatever this was. The caption read, "Perfect evening with my favorite person." My favorite person. The words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I was sitting in a crappy motel room, waiting for my wife to miss me, and she was out having perfect evenings with someone else. The break wasn't temporary for her. It was permanent, and I was the only one who didn't know it yet. That night, I deleted every social media app from my phone. Whatever was happening between them, I didn't need to watch it unfold in real time like some twisted reality show. Tommy stopped by the next morning with supply invoices. Young kid, barely 22, but sharp as a tack. "You okay, boss?" he asked, noticing my bloodshot eyes. "You look like you haven't slept." "I'm fine," I lied. "Just working out some personal stuff. My girlfriend pulled that break thing on me last year," he said casually. Turned out she'd been seeing some other dude the whole time. Said she needed space to figure out her feelings. The words hit too close to home. What happened? I told her to take all the space she wanted. Found out later she expected me to wait around while she played house with the new guy. He shrugged. Some people think they can have their cake and eat it too. Smart kid. Smarter than me, apparently. Day 14 changed everything. I was loading supplies into my truck when my phone rang. Unknown number, but local area code. I almost didn't answer. "Jerome? It's me." Nadine's voice hit me like a physical force. I hadn't heard it in 2 weeks, and suddenly I was transported back to better times when that voice meant comfort instead of betrayal. "What do you want?" I kept my tone neutral, professional. I saw that you looked at my Instagram. I got a notification." Of course she did. In the age of technology, even stalking your ex leaves digital fingerprints. Privacy was dead, and I was the fool who'd forgotten. So, I wanted to explain. About Xander. There it was. The name that had been eating at me for days. You don't owe me any explanations, Nadine. We're on a break, remember? Your words. Silence stretched across the line. Then, it's not what you think. Really? Because what I think is that you've been seeing this guy behind my back, probably for months. And now that you've got me out of the house, you're free to do whatever you want without sneaking around. Jerome, please. Please what? Please pretend I didn't see you looking at him like he hung the moon. Please act like that shirt in our closet doesn't belong to him. Please ignore the fact that you're posting about perfect evenings while I'm living in a motel. Another silence. Longer this time. I could hear her breathing, could almost see her searching for words that would make this okay. You saw the shirt, she said finally, her voice small. Hard to miss. Right there next to your work clothes like he owns the place. How long, Nadine? How long has this been going on? It's complicated. No, it's not. It's simple. You met someone else, decided you wanted him more than me, and instead of being honest about it, you asked for a break so you could have both. Insurance policy in case Prince Charming didn't work out. That's not. Don't. Just don't. You wanted space, you got it. I'm not coming back to fight for something you've already given away. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking, but not from sadness. From anger. Pure, clean anger that felt better than the hollow emptiness I'd been carrying around for 2 weeks. She called back immediately. I declined the call and turned off my phone. For the first time since this started, I felt something resembling peace. She was panicking now, realizing that her safety net wasn't going to be there when she needed it. But here's the thing about bridges. Once you burn them, the ashes don't magically rebuild into something solid. She'd made her choice when she brought Xander into our house, into our life, into our bed. Now she was going to live with the consequences, and I was finally ready to let her. The text started that same night. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree with message after message from Nadine. Jerome, please answer your phone. I need to explain about Xander. It's not what you saw. Please don't shut me out. I read them all, then deleted everyone. She could send 1,000 messages. It wouldn't change what I'd seen with my own eyes. The next morning brought a new tactic. She showed up at my commissary kitchen while I was prepping for the lunch rush. I was seasoning a pork shoulder when I heard her voice behind me. Jerome, please. 5 minutes. I turned around slowly, knife still in my hand. She looked terrible, dark circles under her eyes, hair unwashed, wearing the same clothes from her Instagram photo. How did you know I'd be here? I asked. I called Marcus. He said you're here every morning by 6. Of course she did. You need to leave, Nadine. I'm working. I can't leave. Not until you hear me out. Her voice broke. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. Your mistake was thinking I'd stick around while you figured out your feelings. She stepped closer, and I caught a whiff of desperation mixed with expensive perfume. Probably something Xander bought her. I ended it with him, she said. Last night. It's over. I set down my knife and really looked at her. Red-rimmed eyes, trembling hands, the whole package of regret wrapped up in designer clothes. Good for you. Doesn't change anything between us. It changes everything. I chose wrong, Jerome. I was confused, scared of how comfortable we'd become. Xander made me feel different. But different isn't better. No, it's not. But you didn't figure that out until after you brought him into our house, into our bed, into our life. You made your choice, Nadine. Now live with it. Our bed. I never. Don't lie to me anymore. Please. Whatever dignity we have left between us, don't destroy that too. The fight went out of her then. She sagged against my prep table like a deflated balloon. What do I have to do? She whispered. How do I fix this? You can't. Some things can't be fixed, Nadine. They can only be replaced. She started crying then, ugly sobs that echoed off the kitchen walls. Part of me wanted to comfort her. 6 years of marriage doesn't disappear overnight. But a bigger part remembered that navy shirt hanging in my closet, remembered those Instagram photos, remembered 2 weeks of silence while she played house with another man. I need you to leave, I said quietly. I have work to do. She looked up at me with those red eyes, searching for any crack in my resolve. Finding none, she straightened up and walked toward the door. This isn't over, Jerome, she said without turning around. I won't give up on us. After she left, I stood there staring at the closed door for a long time. Marcus found me 20 minutes later, still holding that same knife, still not moving. She give you trouble, boss? She wants to fix things. You want them fixed? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I don't know if I'm the same man she married anymore, Marcus. And I'm not sure that's a bad thing. 3 days later, I got the call that changed everything. My phone rang at 11 p.m. while I was lying on that terrible motel bed, staring at water stains on the ceiling. Jerome, it's Mom. The tone of her voice hit me like ice water. Mom never called this late unless something was wrong. What happened? It's Danny. He had a heart attack this afternoon. They rushed him to OHSU. My older brother Danny, 45 years old, strong as an ox, never sick a day in his life. The guy who taught me how to throw a curveball and change a tire. How bad? I asked, already reaching for my clothes. Bad. He's stable now, but... Jerome, you need to get here. I was dressed and in my truck within 5 minutes. The hospital was across town, and every red light felt like torture. Danny had been my rock growing up after Dad died. He's the one who co-signed my first truck loan, who helped me build my business from nothing. The cardiac ICU was a maze of beeping machines and worried faces. I found Mom in the waiting room, looking every one of her 68 years. Where is he? Room 12. They're only letting family in for 10 minutes every hour. I walked into that room and barely recognized the man in the bed. Danny looked gray, diminished, connected to more wires than a television. But his eyes were open, and they found mine immediately. Hey, little brother, he said, his voice barely a whisper. Hey yourself. You scared the hell out of us. Good. Someone needed to. He tried to smile. Where's Nadine? Mom said you two were having problems. Of course Mom had told him. That's what families do. They share your business whether you want them to or not. We're separated. She's figuring things out. Danny's eyes sharpened despite the medications. What kind of figuring? The kind that involves another man. He was quiet for a long moment, just the sound of machines keeping him alive, filling the space between us. You okay? He asked finally. I'm fine. You're the one in the hospital bed. I'm serious, Jerome. You look like hell. Thanks. Everyone's been telling me that lately. Good. Means people care about you. Question is, do you care about yourself? Before I could answer, a nurse came in and kicked me out. Visiting hours were over. I spent that night in the hospital waiting room, dozing in an uncomfortable chair next to Mom. Around 3 a.m., she spoke into the darkness. I called Nadine, told her about Danny. My blood pressure spiked. Mom, you shouldn't have. She's family, Jerome. Whatever's happening between you two, she loves Danny. She has a right to know. She gave up her rights when she moved in with another man. Mom was quiet for a minute. Then, people make mistakes, honey. Big ones sometimes. Question is whether you're strong enough to forgive. Some mistakes are too big for forgiveness, Mom. Maybe, but holding on to anger will eat you alive faster than any heart attack. I didn't have an answer for that. So I sat there in the dark, listening to my mother breathe and wondering if Danny would see the sunrise. Danny pulled through the surgery, but the doctors said it would be a long recovery. I was grabbing coffee from the hospital cafeteria when I saw her walking down the corridor. Nadine, carrying flowers and wearing that black dress she knew I liked. My first instinct was to turn around and walk the other way. But this was my brother's hospital, my family's crisis. She didn't get to make me run. Jerome, she said when she spotted me. How is he? Stable. Surgery went well. I kept walking toward the elevator. She fell on a step beside me. I brought these for him, she said, indicating the flowers. Sunflowers. I remember he likes them. She did remember. Danny had always preferred sunflowers over roses, said they reminded him of summer baseball games. It was the kind of detail that made this whole situation worse. She knew us, knew our family, had been part of it for 6 years. He's sleeping, I said as we reached the elevator. Visiting hours are limited. I know. I just want to see him for a minute, to let him know I'm thinking about him. The elevator arrived, and we rode up in silence. When the doors opened on the cardiac floor, I finally looked at her directly. 5 minutes, Nadine. Then you leave. She nodded quickly. Thank you. I led her to Danny's room. He was awake, looking better than he had the night before. When he saw Nadine, his face lit up. Hey, sweetheart, he said, his voice stronger than before. Jerome said you two were having some trouble. Nothing we can't work through, Nadine said, shooting me a look. She placed the sunflowers on his bedside table and took his hand. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck. But I'm alive, so that's something. They talked for a few minutes about his recovery, the flowers, anything except the elephant in the room. I watched Nadine play the part of the concerned sister-in-law, and she was good at it. Natural, like the past month hadn't happened. When her 5 minutes were up, she kissed Danny's forehead and whispered something that made him smile. Take care of yourself, she told him. And take care of Jerome, too. He looks like he hasn't been sleeping. In the hallway, she turned to me. Can we grab coffee? In the cafeteria? No. Please, Jerome. Just coffee. 5 minutes. You got your 5 minutes with Danny. That's all you get. Her face fell. I drove 3 hours to get here. The least you can do is. The least I can do? You want to talk about what people owe each other? I stepped closer, keeping my voice low so the nurses wouldn't hear. I don't owe you anything anymore, Nadine. You burned that bridge when you brought Xander into our house. I told you that's over. Because it didn't work out. Not because you suddenly remembered you had a husband. She was quiet for a moment then. I never forgot about you, Jerome. Not for one day. Then you're a better person than I am. Because I'm starting to forget about you. It was a lie, but it hit home. Her eyes filled with tears, and for a second I almost felt bad. Almost. I'll wait, she said finally. However long it takes. Don't. Find someone else to fix. I'm not broken anymore. I walked away, leaving her standing in that hospital corridor with tears running down her face. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it just felt empty. 2 weeks after Danny's heart attack, Nadine went nuclear. I was closing on my main truck after a busy lunch rush when my phone exploded with notifications. Text after text, each one more desperate than the last. Jerome, I can't take this anymore. I'm losing my mind without you. I need you to know how sorry I am. Please just talk to me. I'm coming to your motel. That last one made my blood run cold. The motel was my sanctuary, the one place she couldn't ambush me. Or so I thought. She showed up at 9 p.m., pounding on my door like the building was on fire. I considered not answering, but she was making enough noise to wake the whole floor. Jerome, open up. I know you're in there. I opened the door just wide enough to see her face. She looked wild, hair disheveled, makeup smeared, eyes red from crying. How did you get my room number? I told them I was your wife. Which I still am, by the way. Technically true, which made it worse. What do you want, Nadine? I want my husband back. She pushed past me into the room, uninvited. Look at this place, Jerome. Look what I've done to you. The room was depressing. Peeling wallpaper, stained carpet, the smell of industrial cleaner barely masking something worse. But it was honest, which was more than I could say for our marriage. You didn't do this to me. You did this to us. There's a difference. She spun around to face me. Then let me fix it. Let me make this right. How? By taking back 8 months of lies. By erasing Xander from existence. By making me forget that I found his shirt in our closet. I'll do anything. You can't do anything. The words came out harder than I intended. You can't unring that bell, Nadine. You can't erase sleeping with another man in our house. You can't take back choosing him over me every single day for months. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I never. You never what? Never made a choice. Every time you texted him instead of me, that was a choice. Every time you lied about where you were, that was a choice. Every time you looked me in the eye and pretended everything was fine while you were planning your next date with him, that was a choice. Tears were streaming down her face now. I made mistakes. No, you made choices. Bad ones. And now you want me to pretend they never happened so you can feel better about yourself. That's not what this is about. Then what? What is this about, Nadine? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're here because Xander didn't turn out to be Prince Charming, and now you want your backup plan back. The words hit home. Her face went white, then red. You think that's what you are? A backup plan? I know that's what I am. What I was. The safe choice you could always come back to when the excitement wore off. She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. Because we both knew I was right. I love you, she said finally, her voice barely a whisper. No, you don't. You love the idea of me, the security I represent, the life we built. But you don't love me enough to choose me when it matters. Jerome. Leave, Nadine. Don't call, don't text, don't show up here again. We're done. Not taking a break, not figuring things out. Done. She stood there for a long moment, looking lost and broken. Then she walked to the door, paused with her hand on the handle. "I never stopped loving you," she said without turning around. "Then you should have thought about that before you brought him into our bed." After she left, I sat on that terrible mattress and realized something important. For the first time since this whole thing started, I meant every word I'd said. I was done waiting for her to choose me. She'd said she needed to take a break. Well, I took one that never ended, and now she was the one who was shattered and chasing me. But I wasn't running anymore. I was walking away, and there was a difference. 6 months after that confrontation at the motel, I finally moved out of that depressing room. Found a decent apartment in southeast Portland. Nothing fancy, but it had windows that actually let sunlight in. Danny was back on his feet, working part-time and following doctor's orders about diet and exercise. The business was thriving. I'd opened 2 new routes and hired 3 more drivers. Turns out, when you're not spending emotional energy on a failing marriage, you have more focus for everything else. I was restocking supplies on my main truck when she walked up. Auburn hair, green eyes, wearing paint-splattered jeans, and a smile that seemed genuine. "You're the owner?" she asked. "That's me. Jerome. What can I get you?" "I'm Vera. I work at the art studio around the corner. We've been ordering from your truck for weeks, and I finally wanted to meet the man behind the best pulled pork in Portland." She had an easy laugh and asked real questions. Not just small talk, but actual curiosity about how I'd built the business. We talked for 20 minutes while I served other customers, and she never once made it feel like an inconvenience. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said as the lunch crowd thinned out. "Shoot, are you single? Because if you're not, I'm about to embarrass myself by asking you out." Direct, honest, refreshing after months of games and manipulation. "I'm divorced. Officially as of 2 weeks ago. Recent enough, but not fresh wounds recent, if that's what you're asking." She studied my face for a moment. "You seem like someone who's figured some things out." "I'm working on it." "Good. I like men who do the work." She pulled out a business card and wrote her number on the back. "Call me when you want to have dinner with someone who won't lie to you about where she's been." After she left, I stared at that card for a long time. Part of me wanted to throw it away. I wasn't ready for complications. But another part, the part that had been dormant for too long, was curious about what honest felt like. That evening, I called her. "Vera, it's Jerome. From the food truck." That was fast. I like that. I was thinking dinner tomorrow night. Somewhere we can actually hear each other talk. I know just the place. For the first time in over a year, I was looking forward to something that didn't involve work or family obligations. Something that was just for me. 2 years later, I was standing in the back room of a small restaurant in the Pearl District, adjusting my tie for the 3rd time. Danny straightened my boutonniere and grinned. "You clean up nice, little brother." "Thanks. You sure about giving that speech?" "Your heart." "My heart is fine. And you're not getting married without your best man embarrassing you properly." Through the window, I could see guests taking their seats. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Vera had insisted. She said big weddings were about impressing other people, and we were past the age of needing anyone's approval. 5 minutes, the wedding coordinator called through the door. Danny clapped my shoulder. "You ready for this?" "More ready than I've ever been for anything." "Good. Because she's perfect for you, Jerome. The way she looks at you, like you're exactly what she ordered." The music started, and we walked out to take our places. The restaurant was perfect, intimate, warm, the kind of place where real conversations happened. Vera had chosen well. When she appeared at the back of the room, my breath caught. Simple white dress, hair down, carrying sunflowers instead of roses. She looked nervous and excited and absolutely radiant. But what hit me most was the way she was looking at me. Like Danny said, like I was exactly what she'd ordered. Not settling, not compromising, not making do. Choosing. The ceremony was short and sweet. We'd written our own vows, keeping them private until this moment. "Jerome," Vera said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes, "I promise to choose you every day, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. I promise to be honest, even when the truth is uncomfortable. And I promise to love the man you are, not some version of you I'm trying to create." When it was my turn, I looked into those green eyes and meant every word. "Vera, I promise to trust what you show me instead of fearing what others have hidden. I promise to build something new with you instead of trying to resurrect something old." And I promise that when you ask me to take a break, I'll ask you what you really need instead of assuming the worst." She laughed through her tears at that last part. The small crowd chuckled too. Most of them knew the story. After the ceremony, during the reception, I stepped outside for air and found myself thinking about Nadine. Not with sadness or anger, but with something like gratitude. Her betrayal had destroyed who I was, but had also cleared the ground for who I became. Danny joined me on the patio, 2 beers in hand. "Thinking about her," he asked. "Thinking about choices. About how sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing. You think you'd be here with Vera if Nadine hadn't? No, I'd still be in that house, making excuses for someone who didn't choose me, playing it safe instead of living." We stood in comfortable silence, watching Portland's lights twinkle below. "She tried to contact you?" Danny asked eventually. "Couple times. Through Mom. Through mutual friends. I never responded. Think you ever will?" I considered it. Maybe someday. To thank her. Thank her for setting me free. For showing me what I didn't want so I could recognize what I did. Inside, Vera was laughing with her sister, looking completely at home in her new life. "Our life. Come on," Danny said. "Your wife is looking for you." My wife. It felt different this time. Solid. Real. Chosen instead of settled for. I walked back inside to dance with the woman who saw me clearly and loved me anyway. The woman who understood that trust isn't about never being hurt. It's about choosing someone who won't hurt you on purpose. The break was over. The real marriage was just beginning.